setup.
Yeah, we are live for a Vikings vintage. This week we talked Chicago Bears. A lot of history with the two teams, and so we will get into it.
Skol Vikings, let's win this game. Skol Vikings, on a relay. Go get that first down, then get a touchdown. Rock 'em, sock 'em, fight, 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 fight. Go Vikings, run out the score. You'll hear us yell for more. V-I-K-I-N-G-S. Skol Vikings, let's go.
Whew. I'm glad to be in Texas after watching this Browns game right now.
It's only a little snow. It wouldn't kill you.
So, Vikings Bears. Vikings lead the all-time series against Chicago. They've only met once in the playoffs, and that went the Bears' way.
Yeah, went the Bears' way big time. That they dominated the Vikings that game.
Yeah, it was 38-19 or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, I keep thinking Chris Carter had a touchdown in that playoff game, but I think that was a regular season game.
The regular season game was the one where he had that won it in overtime. And the playoff game, I don't remember how we scored in the playoff game. I just know Steve Walsh came in here with the Bears and just dominated us.
Yeah, so the all-time series is 66-58-2.
Okay.
The postseason results, like I said, the Bears are 1-0. The all-time, the biggest victory for the Bears was 34-3. The Lions was 38-7. Also, the Vikings also had a 31-0 win.
Yeah, they shut him out in 69. What was the biggest? 38-7?
38-7.
What year was that?
Let's see. What was that? 1989?
Oh, the Bears beat us that bad. Yeah, we lost in 89 to them. I thought they put up more points on us one time before.
No, this longest. It says the largest victory. Bears 34-3, 1984, then 38-7, 89. The Vikings 31-0.
Yep.
Longest winning streak. The Bears, Vikings 8 in a row. 72-76, and then the longest streak for the Bears was 83-86 in the 2009 to 2012.
They also had a really long streak too, where we hadn't beat them in Soldier Field for the longest time.
Yeah, so the wild card was 35-18.
35-18 at the Metrodome. Yep.
I don't even know.
Yeah, Warren Moon was our starting quarterback. Steve Walsh was a starting quarterback for the Bears, St. Paul, Minnesota, my hometown.
I don't even know if the Vikings even scored it. Did they score?
I think they got a touchdown and missed a 2-point or got a 2-point conversion. Or maybe missed a 2-point conversion.
Yeah, the Vikings were the 3 seed too.
Yeah. Yeah, they won the division. And the Bears made what I think, matter of fact, all the teams in the NFC Central, except for Tampa Bay, Made the playoffs that years.
Yeah, because Green Bay beat Detroit 16-12.
Yep.
And then the Cowgirls beat Green Bay.
Yep.
And then San Fran beat Chicago in the next round 44-15.
Yeah.
And then San Fran 38-28. And the San Fran beat that's the year the Chargers went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that was the year Steve Young finally got the monkey off his back.
But the greatest victory was the Vikings' first ever game against the Bears.
Oh yeah.
The Vikings' first ever game they played was against the Bears. George Halas wanted the Vikings in the end because the Vikings were supposed to go to the AFL, but George Halas wanted the Vikings in the NFL because he wanted a team in that area in the NFL. That he didn't want a team in the AFL that was not in the NFL that was close. So like he wanted to keep like the travel, but he also wanted a new team. So
it was also all about because the NFL was going into the new age of TV. And so he wanted his teams and all the NFL teams to be on in this market because once, Minnesota got a pro team of their own, if they're in a rival league, nobody's going to watch the NFL. So, they were even thinking back then. It was all about exposure. It's all about money. And we did have, even for the Vikings here, we did have a local station that did cover the AFL, but nobody watched it. But yeah, you can thank the Chicago Bears for the Vikings in the NFL. And the Vikings thanked him by kicking his ass their very first game.
Rest of the season wasn't very good.
No, but you have that one highlight. You have that
Winston just threw a pick.
You have that highlight, and that is that's a great way to start your franchise, especially against an established team.
Yeah. Not just an established team, but like an old established,
They were the Chicago Bears were considered like really when you think of the NFL, you only thought of the Chicago Bears. But yeah, they were like the OGs, put it that way. And then to beat them the way you did with a rookie quarterback who didn't start the game, comes in and looks like and just turns the quarterback position upside down with his play. I mean, like you said, though, it didn't bode well for the rest of the year. But
yeah, the first meeting between the two teams was on September 17, 61, 37-13. 1968, the Vikings, with 33 seconds left in the game, the Vikings led the Bears 24-23, and Mike Percival included a 47-yard game-winning field goal. 1982, the Bears visited the Vikings for the first meeting in the Metrodome. Vikings quarterback Tommy Kramer threw 5 touchdown passes, and the Vikings dominated the Bears 35-7.
Sammy White caught 3 of those touchdown passes.
And the 85 Super Bowl run, the Bears met the Vikings in Minnesota for a Thursday night game on September 19th, 1985. The Bears were struggling on offense, trailed 17-9 to start the third quarter. Bears quarterback Jim Avant convinced coach Mike Dickett to let him play, and he stepped in the game having had back spasms prior to the game. On his first throw, McMahon launched a 70-yard touchdown pass, threw a 25-yard touchdown pass on the first play on the next Bears possession to take the lead, and to lead the Bears to score a third touchdown on the next series. The Bears ended up winning 33-24 in a game sometime called the Vikings Miracle. The Bears called it the Vikings Miracle.
That game, okay, McMahon, the first 4 passes he threw in the whole game were touchdown passes. And we had the lead. I mean, Steve Fuller started it, but then McMahon came in, and he set the tone. He did.
Yeah. And then on October 4th, 1992, the Mike Ditka Bears went to Minneapolis and dominated the Vikings for 3 quarters, leading 20-0. with the ball in the fourth quarter. Bears quarterback Jim Harbaugh. This is. I think this is the game they got into an argument, right?
This was the downfall of the Ditka era.
Jim Harbaugh audibled out of a run play and threw an ill-advised pass that was intercepted by the Vikings defensive back Todd Scott and returned a 35-yard touchdown. Afterward, Ditka was seen on the sideline screaming at Harbaugh over the mistake.
Yep.
Which the Vikings used for emotional springboard for 2 fourth quarter touchdowns for a total of 21 unanswered fourth quarter points and a 21-20 victory for Minnesota. The Bears, who were 2-2 prior to the game, finished the season 5-11.
They that game in itself, that was the end of the Mike Ditka era in Chicago, because after that, he had a falling out with the press. He lost the locker room, and you just knew it was time for him to go. But then when he yelled at Jim Harbaugh the way he did, he literally lost it on Harbaugh. It was actually, when you think back on it, and remember, Mike had heart attacks. So the way that he went after Harbaugh was just, holy crap. Like he was going to have another heart attack. And up to that point, the Bears dominated us. After that, you just felt the whole tide turn. You know?
Oh, they got the blowers out to mark the hash marks.
Oh, gee. Okay.
On October 14, 2007, the Bears hosted the Vikings at Soldier Field. The game was scoreless until Devin Hester returned a punt, 80-yard touchdown with 2 minutes left to go in the first quarter. On the final play of the first quarter, Vikings quarterback Tavares Jackson, rest in peace, buddy, threw a 60-yard touchdown pass to Troy Williamson. Troy Williamson was fast. It doesn't surprise me. It was for 60 yards. I'm surprised he caught it more than anything else.
He couldn't catch. That was broad.
Bears quarterback Brian Greasy threw for 373 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions, while the Vikings, behind rookie running back Adrian Peterson's 224 rushing yards, and 3 scores, gained 311 rushing yards. The Vikings had a 31-17 lead with 5 minutes to go in regulation, but 2 Greasy touchdowns tied the game with 1:38 left. The Vikings' Ryan Longwell kicked a 55-yard field goal on the final play. Yep. That game was crazy.
I remember that game. Yeah, the Bears literally could not stop Adrian Peterson. Could not stop it. And then to set up the field goal, Adrian Peterson returned a kickoff 50 yards. So, but that was the beginning of the Adrian Peterson era.
What up, Too Evil?
Hey, Too Evil. Yeah, there's a few. There is a few.
Yeah. I'm just going over certain highlighted games that I found notes on. The highest scoring matchup of the two clubs' history came on October 19th, 2008 at Soldier Field. The Bears won 48-41 as Kyle Orton threw for 283 yards and 2 touchdowns, while the Vikings' Gus Frerotte had 298 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. But he also threw 4 interceptions. Gus Frerotte threw 4 interceptions.
Oh my God.
The last coming in the final 2 minutes, the Bears scored twice off of botched field goal Vikings punts. Garrett Wolf ran in 17-yard score off a block punt in the first quarter. And while in the second, the Vikings dropped their punt snap, and Zachary Bowman fell on it in the end zone for a Bears touchdown. So they had 6 turnovers pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bears probably scored in every one of them.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, he dropped it again. Sorry, I'm also watching the Bears game, Browns game.
I got the Steeler game on, too.
Yeah. En route to the 2008 division title, the Vikings hosted the Bears on November 30th, 2008, and broke out of the close contest with a 99-yard touchdown catch by Vikings former Bear Bernard Berry in the second quarter. The Vikings won 34-14, and Gus Frerotte threw for 201 yards, and Adrian Peterson rushed for 131. I remember that play. That play was awesome.
Vikings had a key goal line stand right
Yeah.
before that play. And that was the first play after the goal line stand in 99. And the Bears had no pass rush. They had no pass rush on that play. I'm just kind of like, what are you guys doing? And the Bears had a good defense. They had a good defense then.
Yeah, they had Peanut Tillman, right?
Peanut
Tillman,
Tillman,
Urlacher, Lance Briggs.
Yeah, Tommy Harris on the front line.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was Peanut
Alex
that got
Brown.
hurt. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you had Peanut Tillman is the one burying Byrne. That's the funny part.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they just said, we needed that spark, and we got it.
I think if it was good weather, the Browns probably attempt a field goal there. But they got the first time.
Yeah, but that would have been like a 56-yard field goal.
The 11-3 Vikings traveled to Soldier Field on December 28th, 2009 for the Monday Night Football matchup with the 5-9 Bears. The Bears manhandled the Vikings in the game first half, forcing a Brett Favre fumble and scoring on 3 Robbie Gould field goals and a 7-yard Jay Cutler touchdown to Greg Olsen. Adrian Peterson rushed in a 6-yard touchdown in the third, but the extra point was no good. Another Cutler touchdown to Desmond Clark put the score at 23-6 entering the fourth. Favre had never won a game in his previous 42 tries, in which the team was trailed by 17 points. But Favre connected with Vashante Shenko in the third. And then after Ryan Longwell field goal, Peterson ran in the second touchdown for a 23-23 tie. The Bears clawed downfield, and Cutler found Earl Bennett in the end zone. Then Favre on 4th and goal hit Sidney Rice on the final 30 seconds to tie the game at 30. Gould missed a field goal in overtime, but Peterson caught a Favre pass and then fumbled. Shocker to the
just the fact that you're throwing an AP is
to the Bears in the Minnesota 30-yard line. Cutler then found Devin Areshimadu for a deep touchdown in the game.
He burned Antoine Winfield.
I love you.
Yeah,
I mean that I actually remember parts of that game. The fact that they threw to Adrian Peterson, I think, shocked the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
But Adrian Peterson fumble didn't
shock me. No, that's not shocking at all. And he was good at putting the ball on the turf. That was his problem. For somebody to have as strong as hands as him, he could fumble.
Yeah,
Okay, we got 2 minutes left in the Steeler game. So, there was a string there. The Vikings played a Soldier Field. They were like in a 16-game stretch. They were like 3-13 or something like that.
Yeah, what was it? The
2000s.
Yeah,
they could not win.
Well, the Bears won 6 in a row in that time period, but
yeah. I mean, for the longest time, they just could not win a Soldier Field, whatever the reason was. That's why when, Zimmer couldn't win a Soldier Field either. He had a hard time winning a Soldier Field. Matter of fact, it was that Monday night game in 2018 against the Bears, the one where Cutler hadn't played all year, but he played against the Vikings and looked like an all-pro. That's the game where Zimmer got into it with Norv Turner in the locker room. And then Norv all of a sudden quit. But Norv and Zimmer got into a fist fight in the locker room after the game. It wasn't not many punches were landed, but remember when Zimmer all of a sudden had to have his eye was messed up and then he had to have surgery on it? That was why, because of the fight. So
and then Mike Pfeiffer was the head coach, and he almost was it Dallas the game he almost won.
Yeah, Prefer was the head coach, which you had Stefanski on the sideline. Why didn't you just have Stefanski be the head coach?
Yeah.
You know, the decisions really didn't make sense. But yeah, I mean, you know, going to Chicago used to be a guaranteed loss, but they've won what 3 straight now in Chicago.
I think it's 3 straight. They won 3.
Okay, so they're going for 4 in a row. So
I don't think KOC's ever lost in Chicago.
No, I'm not going to jinx them either. Hopefully, but yeah, you know, so it depends on the field. It's going to be 48 degrees, but are they going to have the snow like Cleveland? Temperature is 48, but you know, is it going to be a windy 48? Is it going to be a calm 48? That's another thing too. So,
how can they call intentional grounding when you're getting hit as you're throwing it?
If they're going to call anything, it should be an incomplete pass.
Well, kind of how they threw. What game was I watching? I don't know if it was Minnesota or not. Maybe it was Minnesota game. They threw intentional grounding on it when there was no pressure on the quarterback.
Well, yeah, 9 times out of 10, a quarterback will just throw the ball away, and he'll throw it in the vicinity of somebody.
Oh, okay. They called it illegal touching offensive line. The ball to hit an offensive lineman. Okay,
right.
That makes more sense. Okay.
Yeah, which will not cost them any yards. It shouldn't. It should be an option for the offensive line, for the defense to either. Oh yeah, because Ponsic actually caught the pass and dropped it.
Yeah. So the scheduled December 20th game, December 20th, 2010 meeting at the Metrodome was moved to TCF Bank Stadium after a snow. You know, we all know what happened to the Metrodome.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, the Bears clinched the NFC North title by beating the Vikings 40-14. Devin Hester broke a tie with Brian Mitchell for the most return touchdowns by scoring on a 66-yard punt return, the league record 14th of his career. While Jay Cutler threw for 194 yards and 3 touchdowns, Brett Favre initially ruled out of the game, suited up and started, but after a touchdown in the first quarter, he was sacked and thrown to the ground. He left the game and did not return.
He didn't play down. That was the end of his career.
That was it. That was it. Yeah.
Yep, that was the end of his
career. This was before TCF Bank Stadium had the coils underneath the field.
Yeah, the Wolves paid for that when they moved into. Well, they were only there for 2 years. The Wolves paid for the coils, but they actually, because we got a lot of snow that year, that time, and they literally had people at the stadium shoveling it out because the Gopher season was over. So the stadium sat there.
Bob, that's the question in all questions, because the Indianapolis Colts, Tony Dungy said before the Super Bowl, we are not kicking the Devin Hester. And what do? They kicked the Devin Hester. And he goes for a touchdown. Yeah, I don't know why teams would kick.
I don't understand that either. Hey, keep the conversation going, Catch. I'll be right back.
All right, so on September 15, 2013, the Bears and Vikings met each other in Week 2 of the 2023 season for a division match. The first under new Bear coach Mark Trestman, which if you talk to Bears fans, they say Mark Trestman is the worst head coach they've ever had. Vikings Cordell Patterson returned the opening kickoff 105 yards for a touchdown. Bears quarterback Jay Cutler followed it up with 2 touchdown passes to Martellus Bennett and Brandon Marshall to take a 14-7 lead. A Cutler fumble was returned by Brian Robinson, 61 yards for a Vikings touchdown. Tim Jennings of the Bears intercepted Vikings quarterback Christian Ponder for 44 yards to take the lead. Ponder was able to throw a touchdown to tie the game. Robbie Gould kicked a 20-yard field goal for a 24-21 Bears lead at halftime. In the second half, Blair Blair Walsh kicked 3 field goals for the Vikings, putting them ahead 30-24. With just 10 seconds left in the game, Jay Cutler threw a game-winning touchdown to Martellus Bennett to win 31-30. The win improved the Bears to 2-0, while the Vikings dropped to 0-2.
That was the year was that 2013?
2013.
That was the year the Vikings had a lead in a few games and lost it on the last drive. I can count like 7 or 8 games where they went into the lead with less than 2 minutes and lost it. That was the first of one of them. Yeah, that year was just bad.
Oh, looks like the Browns might score. Okay. On September, the same year, the second game, the Bears and the Vikings met. Vikings met again. Of course, we know the Bears won. Let me see. The Bears and the Vikings played in the rematch, which turned into an overtime thriller. The Bears were missing Cutler due to injury. Josh McCown played in his place, which is quarterback coach for the Vikings now.
Yeah.
And Ponder was injured early in the game, making it for Matt Castle. McCown played well, leading the team to a 20-10 lead with 2 touchdown passes to Alshon Jeffrey. However, Castle and his team responded with a deflect to the deficit with a reception by Greg Jennings that tied the game with a Blair Walsh field goal with little time regulation in the fourth. The Bears tied on an improbable 66-yard field goal just following a Devin Hester run, which set it up. The kick fell short and landed in the hand of Patterson, who tried to make a run of his own, which did not get far, and the game went into overtime. Walsh successfully kicked a 39-yard field goal before the Vikings, which is weird because Blair Walsh was good for like the first couple years he was in the league, and then I don't know what happened to him. He
was money his first 2 years, and then all of a sudden he just went downhill. I don't know what it was. He had been kind of bad even the year he missed that playoff field goal.
Yeah,
he had been so, but then after that he was just, my God.
Just so the Browns did score. They're going for 2.
Yeah.
So it's weird how it's like, it's kind of like a pitcher, like there was relief pitchers that get that Steve Glass disease where they just they lose it and they can never get it back. Kickers are kind of the same way,
Kickers are very streaky. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
They are very. Now you're seeing it with Justin Tucker in Baltimore. He's not having the success he used to have either. It does happen. I mean, age catches up with you. I mean,
not everybody can be Jason Hansen.
No. And what's his name is still in the league? Greg Zuerlein. He needs to retire now because he's starting to look like he was kind of in that Jason Hansen mode too. But now he needs to. Yeah. Maybe think about hanging it up.
Mason Crosby did it at the right time for the Packers, which I wish he was still kicking for the Packers, but. So but the field goal was negated by a face mask penalty, and then he missed a 57-yard field goal after. The Bears tried a 47-yard field goal on second down to win the game quickly, but the ball sailed too far to the right, ending the drive. Once the Vikings got the ball back, they set up a 34-yard field goal for Walsh, which ended up winning the game for the Vikings.
Yeah, that was Frazier's next to last game.
Yeah, because 2014 when was Simber's first year, right?
Yep.
That was 3-13 that year, I think, right?
That was the 5-10-1 year.
5-10-1. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that was the 5-10-1 year.
Yeah. So. And October, just a couple more here. December 30th, 2018, the 11-4 Bears met the 8-6-1 Vikings at US Bank Stadium in a game with playoff implications. If the Bears won, the Rams lost, the Bears would get the second seed and a first round bye. by virtue of the head-to-head tiebreaker. If the Vikings won, they would be in the playoffs on the 6th seed and earn the final playoff spot over the Eagles, also by virtue of the head-to-head tiebreaker. The Bears won 24-10 with 109 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns from running back Jordan Howard, eliminated the Vikings and allowing the Eagles to clinch the 6th seed following the win. However, because the Rams won their game, the Bears did not get the first round bye and ended up losing to the Eagles in the wild card round. Had the Vikings won, the two teams would have met in the wild card at Soldier Field.
Is that okay? Is that 2016?
2018.
2018? So that was the Kirk Cousins game where he got in, where Thielen yelled at him on the sideline.
Yeah.
That was we needed that game, and he just didn't show up.
Well, the Falcons are finding that out.
Yeah, I know. I know. Yep, I know. But yeah, I mean,
But the fact that they were 8-6-1 and still had the chance to make the playoffs, that's not,
No, yeah.
On October 9th, 2022, the Vikings led the Bears 21-3 late in the second quarter. The Bears scored a touchdown with 1:08 left in the second quarter, and that made it 21-10 by halftime. The Bears rally. This is. I took the notes for it in this one. The Bears rallied back, scoring 19 unanswered points, and took a 22-21 lead with 9:31 left in the game. The Vikings, however, on their next drive, drove down the field from their own 25-yard line and scored a touchdown and made a 2-point conversion with 2:26 left to lead the game 29-22. The Bears, however, still had a chance to potentially tie the game and send it overtime. The Bears started at their own 25-yard line and were able to drive down the field to their own 46 with 1:14 left in the game. On the fifth play of the drive, Bears quarterback Justin Fields completed the pass to wide receiver and former Vikings Amir Smith Marset for 15 yards. Marset tried to get more yardage, and the ball had his hands and stripped away, stolen by Vikings safety Cam Dancer.
Cam Dancer, yeah.
Yep, the Vikings ran out the clock and won 29-22.
Yep. Yeah, Cam Dancer.
That was one of their fraud wins.
Yeah, that was KOC's first year. And he had the lead in that game. He had the lead right away and gave it up. But that was also Ed Donatel's defense too. So that I don't know how the hell we won with that defense.
Players like Dancer making the plays that he made.
Yeah, but
so to break down the decades, the Bears in the 60s were 11-5-2 against the Vikings.
Okay.
The 70s, the Vikings were 15-5.
Wow, talk about two sides of the coin. Those Bears teams in the 70s were bad before Walter, and some of those teams.
Well, that's why the Vikings dominated the division in the 70s, because every team in the division except for them were terrible in the 70s.
Yeah, I mean, it just said even when they got Walter, they still had times where they were bad. They just did.
The Bears were bad. The Lions were always bad, and then the Packers were worse than the Lions in the 70s.
At least the Lions were competitive.
Yeah,
I'll give the Lions that, but for the most part, they were. Yeah.
And then the 80s, it was 10-9. The Bears.
It was close. There was a rivalry that built up, especially with the Bears becoming the team that they were, and the Vikings were always chasing them.
And in the 90s, it was flipped. 13-8 Vikings.
Yeah, and Denny, for the most part, owned the Bears.
He owned everybody.
Yeah, Denny, for the most part, owned the Bears.
And then the 2000s, it was tied 10-10.
Okay.
The 2010s, the Bears 12-8.
Okay.
And then so far in the 2020s, the Bears have only beaten the Vikings twice.
Okay. Yeah. The Bears rivalry is a lot closer than the Lions rivalry. If we had a real rival, and it goes by decades, in the 80s, our rivals were the Bears. In the 90s, it was the Bears.
Division-wise, I would say the 49ers. I would say the 49ers are more of the Vikings rivalry in the 80s.
In the
even though they weren't in the same division. Yeah, they always played the Vikings. They always played the Vikings, 49ers in the 80s. Playoff games, the regular season games. Yeah.
Yeah, in the 70s it was the Rams, 80s it was the Niners, 90s all around it was the Packers.
Yeah, the Packers and the Vikings were good in the 90s.
Yeah.
The other two teams were not.
Yeah.
The Lions had those 2 good years, 91, 93.
Now keep in mind the Bears were also kind of in that Lion phase where okay, they hyped them up in preseason, and then something would happen in the regular season where they'd fall apart.
So let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 14 players have played for both teams.
I can name some of them. Okay, the old school ones: Alan Page, Bill Brown, Bob Grimm, John Gilliam. I want to say I don't know if Ed Marinero played any games with the Bears, but he was with the Bears at one time. I don't know if he made the roster.
Yeah. You're missing one more. You're missing one more old school guy.
One more old school guy?
77 was his last year.
77. John Ward?
No. So alphabetical order.
What's the position?
Wide receiver.
John Gilliam.
No, you said John Gilliam.
I said John Gilliam. Bob Grimm was a Viking. He came back to the Vikings.
That 77 was his last year.
He was a wide receiver?
He played 1 year for the Bears.
And the others were with the Vikings?
Yep. So
who is it?
So alphabetically, Jared Allen played for the Bears 24 to 2015.
Okay.
Dwayne Bates played for the Bears 99 to 2001.
Okay.
Along with the 2002, 2003 with the Bears.
Yeah.
Bill Brown played 61 with the Bears.
Yeah.
And then, of course, 62 to 74 with the Vikings. You questioned yourself, but you were correct. Bob Grimm.
Okay.
1975 with the Bears.
Yeah.
67 and 71 with the Vikings. 76 to 77 with the Vikings.
Yeah.
For the Bears. Oh, the Steelers lose. Mike Hardestein.
Mike Hartenstein. Yeah, the defensive end.
75 to 86 with the Bears. 87 with the Vikings.
Yep.
Of course, Alan Page. Everybody knows that one.
Mm-hmm.
Jim McMahon.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Green, running back.
Okay, yeah, I remember him.
Chester Taylor.
Oh, that's right. Chester was a Bear.
Yeah, he was a Bear after when he left Minnesota. He went to Chicago. Corey Wooten, sorry.
Oh, Corey Wooten, yes, the defensive end.
Cordell Patterson, obviously.
Yep.
ISM.
Yep.
Duke Shelley.
Oh, that's right.
And then Yannick Ngakoue.
Yannick Ngakoue. Okay.
Yeah. So
who was the wide receiver? Was it Gilliam or Ladd?
That was Grimm.
It was Grimm. That's what I thought.
Yeah. I said you questioned yourself, but you were correct.
Okay.
I mean, they may have. See, the thing about it is if you didn't actually play it down,
mm-hmm.
you may be on the roster, but if you don't actually play it down, are you considered part of the team?
Yeah, if you're on injured reserve or anything.
So
if you're on the active roster, yeah, you're on the team.
So those were the guys who actually played it down with both teams.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I looked it up, I looked at who played it down with both teams, and those were the guys that came up.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Yeah, it's if you're on the active roster, you're considered with the team, even if you don't play. If you're on the active roster, if you're on the game day roster, you're on the team. Even injured reserve, you're on the team. I know a guy that from Minnesota. He never played a down of pro football. He was all Big Ten, All-American at the University of Minnesota. He got drafted by the Redskins in 87. He got a Super Bowl ring. Never played it down with the Redskins, but he was on the team. So he got a Super Bowl ring. Matter of fact, he never played it down in the NFL, but he got a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, Vikings have never, since KOC's taken over, the Vikings haven't lost in Chicago, but they have lost at home.
Yeah, they lost last year.
Yeah.
The Monday night game. That's why I'm kind of like, I got a feeling we're going to win on Sunday, but I'm real hesitant. KOC's got to get my trust. He still hasn't got my trust yet.
I don't think Caleb Williams is going to be able to do anything against defense.
Caleb Williams is going to get a look at a defense. He's going to get looks on Sunday that are probably going to confuse the hell out of him.
Well, you got a quick story because my dogs need to get fed real quick.
I guess I could go back in the day with the whole Alan Page ending up in Chicago and how that went down. Up until, matter of fact, after the Super Bowl in 76, there had been talk that Alan Page was going to be traded. Of course, I didn't believe it, and many Viking fans didn't believe it, but it was a talk in the league that Allen was on the market. That was in 77. In 78, by time the regular season started, it was the big talker. Alan Page was going to get traded by the deadline. I guess what happened was Allen started running, and he lost a lot of weight, which upset Bud. That upset Bud, but Allen told the story years later that one thing the Vikings did in 78 was they changed the defensive scheme on him, which did not fit the way he played. So there was that disconnect there. But the big one was Allen's weight. He went from, I think he was 245 when he won the MVP. He was down to like 220, 221. And, Bud didn't like that. But the funny thing was, Allen weighed 221. The guy next to him, Jim Marshall, only weighed 220. But it was more of a philosophy thing. So midway through the 78 season, Allen gets released. The Vikings outright waive him, put him on waivers. He can sign with anybody. And naturally, you knew the Bears were going to sign him because, one, Jim Finks was the GM in Chicago. Two, the new head coach of the Bears was Neil Armstrong, which was Allen's defensive coordinator in Minnesota. And third was Buddy Ryan, who Allen had developed a great friendship with Buddy Ryan. So naturally, he went to Chicago. Why Bud Grant didn't take that into consideration, I don't know. But Allen ends up in Chicago. He gets 9.5 sacks. He had no sacks when the Vikings cut him. He had 9.5 sacks when he went into Chicago. And he became a big part of that Bears defense. And Allen took it upon himself. I mean, it was personal whenever he faced the Vikings. It was very personal. But for me, I just never understood why.
Did they ever patch it up?
I think so. But it took a long time because even in 82, Allen was retired, but he was kind of the player rep for the union. He had something to do with the players union. He went down to Mankato for training camp. He was going to talk to the players. He did run into Bud Grant. They were civil, but you could tell there was still that tension there. I think it was Pat Royce, the columnist in Minneapolis, said, if you thought their relationship was frosty when they left in 78, it ain't thawed out at all. It was still tense. I think it lightened up when Allen went into the Hall of Fame. Once Allen got in the Hall of Fame, he kind of changed his stance, because when Allen got nominated to go into the Hall of Fame, he seriously was considering going in as a Chicago Bear, because they asked him why, and he said, because the Vikings fired me. Point blank. They fired me. So yeah, he was still upset about that. And the Vikings put the olive branch out there, and I think it was Mike Lind that did it. But
Probably the only time Alan Page has ever been fired from anything.
exactly. But here's the funny part. Lynn is the one that put him on waivers too. Lynn is the one that listened to Bud. But yeah, I mean, they were civil. They did talk. Alan really doesn't do a lot of football stuff. It's a part of his life that he talks about now, but it was never a big part of his life. It was just a chapter.
I mean, NFL Supreme Court justice.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep. Yeah, he was. So he never really. I mean, it was just a part of his life. It was a stepping stone, and he was successful at it. But
we actually talked more about Notre Dame.
Yeah, he does.
For the Vikings a lot of times.
Yeah,
just his experience at going to Notre Dame and all that type of stuff.
Yeah,
more,
he
more
will
about his Vikings.
He will talk about his playing days now.
Yeah, he's like what, almost 90, right?
He's 80 something, and he's like one of the only few that are left. Him, Carl, and Jim. Matter of fact, all the Purple People Eaters are still with us, except for Doug Sutherland. They just did a Zoom call and an interview. I forget who did it. It might have been Mike Max from one of the local stations, but they got them all together.
Larson looks pretty good for his age.
Who's that?
Larson looks pretty good for his age.
Larson still looks like Gary Larson.
Yeah.
He still looks like Gary Larson. It's they all, and Jim Marshall's kind of gotten out of the limelight. He did talk about Bud, but Jim is damn near 90.
Well,
so Carl still travels.
Carl Ella looks like he could still whip some ass.
Yeah, Carl was just in Florida for the Jacksonville game.
Yeah,
so he still travels and does his thing. Alan, who he's a widow now. He lost his wife here 2-3 years ago. So he's got a school named after him here in Minneapolis. He will talk football.
What's the team's mascot?
Oh, for that school?
Yeah,
I have no idea. It's a grade school.
they still got nicknames though.
It's Justice Allen Page Middle School, I think. Justice
Allen.
In
Florida, the middle schools still have. In Florida, where I grew up, middle schools have nicknames as well.
Yeah, we've got. I mean, I know it's Allen C. Page. It might be Justice Allen C. Page Middle School or something like that.
I'm pretty sure it's probably Justice.
Right, and so he's still
got to put respect on that.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, he's still revered here. I mean,
the 88.
What's that?
The 88s.
Yeah, the 88s. I mean that front line is still revered here in Minnesota.
Well, they're talking about with the way the Vikings defense you now. They're saying it's the new Purple People Eaters.
Yeah,
you can't run. You cannot run on this defense.
But you got to be consistent.
Well, all right, they pretty are. The only time the Lions game, they got a couple plays to the edge, but other than that, they really weren't able to run.
Right. Yeah. If you take away Gibbs' big run,
he
didn't do anything.
Yeah, the Lions didn't run at all.
The Lions didn't run at all. It's but
they take away that 98. They take away that 98-yard touchdown pass that Levis had. He throws for less than 200 yards.
But Metellus took the bad angle.
Yeah. Which I'm disappointed in Metellus this year. He's not playing as good.
No, he's not. He's not. He's being overshadowed.
Yeah.
Everybody else has gotten better. He's not that playmaker he was last year, but you've got other playmakers, so it kind of offsets him.
Yeah.
But I mean, with those four guys, those four guys together haven't had a sack in damn near 50 years, and they are still legends. They are the legends that everybody still has to live up to. The only ones that came close to that was the Keith Millar, Chris Dolman line. That was it.
Brian Robinson and Jared Allen had a couple of good years, but nothing
Right.
compared to.
Well, and Robinson split time with Ray Edwards.
Well, what made that? Well, I don't know. The Williams Wall, that defense, the Williams Wall with those two, Pat Williams, Kevin Williams.
You weren't going to run on them.
Jared Allen and was Ray. It was
Ray Edwards. Yeah,
Ray Edwards.
You weren't going to run on him,
right?
But you weren't going to get a real pass rush with Pat Williams because he wasn't a pass rusher. That's why they had Jimmy Evans come in, and Robinson come in. But I mean, these guys, them Purple People Eaters hadn't played together damn near 50 years, and then when you're still talking about them, the legends that they are. I mean, they've got folklore. They're right up there with in Minnesota, Paul Bunyan and everybody else. And I know for years they used to give the Bears back in the day because the Bears had Bobby Douglas as a quarterback. Bobby couldn't pass, but he would run. He was a running quarterback.
Yeah.
He was a left-hander, but he was
Justin Fields back then.
He was Justin Fields back in the day. And for years, the Vikings used to just beat him like there's no tomorrow. The Purple People Eaters. They would. Beat him to the point where if you watch highlight films, it always looks like he has a ripped up jersey. Well, he does because that's how often he was hit. That's how often the Vikings were hitting him. But yeah, I mean, for Allen to be the legendary status that he is, and the fact that he came back to Minnesota was because he was in Chicago, and then once his career was over, he moved back to Minnesota. So,
no, unfortunately, the offense wasn't.
It's for those 2 years that the Vikings were dominant, they just did not have an offense. I still say Joe Cap sticks around, they win a Super Bowl. I will say that until my last breath. Fran, you got Fran, but what made Fran was Chuck Foreman. That changed the whole dynamics of the offense because Chuck was a offensive weapon that most teams didn't have back then. Chuck
would be good today.
Chuck would be he would have yak yards up the wazoo. I mean, He would be what LaDainian was. That was Chuck back in the day.
Yeah. And by the way, sorry we weren't on last night. I had no internet last night. They always pick late night and overnight to fix the lines. They were installing a new line. So they turned off the node that goes to my house to replace the line. So I had no internet last night. That's why there wasn't a show tonight. If you guys are watching this later on replay, that's why it wasn't on Wednesday.
Yeah, they worked on my internet today, so it must be you got an Xfinity, right?
No, fuck no. I killed myself. Xfinity. I got Spectrum.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I have DirecTV for television, so I'm never going to have to worry about cable company as far as TV. But usually with internet, you usually have two choices of internet. You usually don't have to get one company. So whatever there's Xfinity, I'm always choosing the other company.
Yeah, see, we've got other choices here. I'm thinking about switching. But I've also got a Fire Stick, so I get all the football games. So, but yeah.
Well, I had my phone, so I was able to watch some YouTube. Like I was able to watch some program, like the GG One Bar. I was able to watch, some of those shows,
right.
Yogi show. But so I was able to use my phone, but because I didn't have internet, basically, I didn't have internet like for 2.5 days. So my hotspot, even though it's unlimited, when you get to a certain point, they slow it down. I was at the point where they slowed it down, and StreamYard is such a resource hog. There
Yeah.
was no way I was going to do StreamYard. I'm
Yeah,
literally,
I got a Roku on one TV and I got my Fire Stick on the other TV. So,
yeah.
you
Well, I've had DirecTV since '99,
okay.
so I'm, my wife is used to it.
So
She knows,
you're basically grandfathered in.
yeah, she knows all the channels. She knows, hey, if I want to watch this on this channel, I know what channel number it is.
Right. Do you have the Sunday ticket?
Yeah, I had. Yeah, that wasn't the reason why I had, because I had Prime Star before that, and then DirecTV bought Prime Star, and then DirecTV took over. But Sunday Ticket was nice. I never did the card where you do the card illegally.
See, I had friends that did do that, and then when they zapped it,
yeah,
that's where everybody was screwed.
Yeah, I was not. I never got zapped because I was doing mine legit. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I think the only time I did that, I had like bootleg cable back in the day, where they had the box, and a friend of mine rigged it to where I got bootleg cable, so that's how I got wrestling pay-per-views and movies and all that other stuff. But now I got
the only thing I ever did was for my friend. They for his cable, they had the basic of the basic cable, like 8 channels, and then so what I did was they have like a little metal piece that covers it up to filter it.
Yeah,
you just take that off, and then you just get basic cable.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like he was trying to get the paid channels or anything like that. He was just trying to get the full basic channels.
Yeah.
But I didn't do it. I just told, I'm like, I can't tell you how to do it. I can suggest, well, why don't you try this? So, but yeah, that's the only time I've ever done anything like illegal. Pretty much, I've always made enough to pay for basic stuff. So I've never really had to worry about it. But see, my wife and I, we did a cost-effective thing of all the apps. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, this app costs this much. This app costs this much. This app costs this much, right? Mm-hmm. So if we want like HBO Go, Showtime, all this, plus if we want this app and all this, it ended up being like $340 or something like that.
That's why you buy a Fire Stick.
For all the apps,
Fire Stick and jailbreak it.
So that's why I have, but with DirecTV, when I'm not paying for, when I had NFL Sunday Ticket, MLB, because I had all 4 of them, mm-hmm. My bill would be around there, maybe a little bit less, like $320 or so. But if you take away all the if you take away all the league passes and stuff like that, my DirecTV bill is like $240 something, and I have like all the movie channels, but. It's and I get some streaming services for free, but
yeah, that's why I got the Fire Stick. Once I got to jailbreak it, I'm watching all that for $11.
Yeah.
So, but I guess for you, you're out of town, so
that's I can't.
The only way you can watch the Vikings is
right. The only way I can watch my Hawks, the Wild, and the Twins is through those pay.
Yeah. Whereas. Now, here's the thing. If they had this technology 30, 40 years ago, my God, I'd have been in heaven. We would have seen a lot
Instead
of
great watching those 3 NFL games a week.
Yeah. Well, sometimes not even 3. You got 2. Like up here, you would get the Viking game. And then 9 times out of 10, the other game, I hate to say it, was the Cowboys. Pissed me off.
Yeah. See, growing up in Florida, we had the Dolphins in Tampa, so the Fox game would be the Tampa game.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the Vikings were in the same division as Tampa, I got at least 2 games a year where I could watch the Vikings.
Yeah.
So and then you had the Dolphins on the AFC, and then you would have whatever station had the late game, you'd watch that. And they didn't have Sunday Night Football then, so then it'd be Monday. So,
Oh yeah, and it's like if you're our age, hell, we remember when once that clock started working for 60 minutes, that was the end of the weekend. And then you
Yeah,
had to wait for Monday night football.
that
And you
tick
got
tick
the
tick tick for
highlight.
60 minutes as a kid. You're like, God,
Yeah,
time for
exactly.
school.
And then before, if you didn't have HBO, because if you had HBO, you got Inside the NFL.
Yeah,
But the only other highlights you got was if you watched the Monday
my
night.
mom got HBO for me just for that show.
Yeah, I love that show. That's the only reason I watched HBO. My mom loved the
Nick
movies.
Bonacani, Lynn Dawson.
Yeah.
Oh, that's when it was good. Now I don't know what the hell it's turned into. Now they should just stop. It's on CW.
Well, there's too much. I mean, like I said before, the NFL is in real danger of just overexposure. It doesn't feel special. It doesn't feel like it's must see TV. It's just kind of like, oh, it's fun. I'll watch it.
That's the Goodell model. Everyday NFL.
Yeah, that's not good. I mean, that's not good. I mean, we've got Black Friday football next week.
Yeah.
The Raiders and Chiefs.
On Netflix.
Is it Netflix?
Yeah. Is it Netflix? No, that's the Christmas Day game.
The Christmas game is Netflix. This one's going to be on Amazon.
Speaking of Netflix,
I don't want to talk about that so-called fight.
I still got PSD from Tyson's ass.
You know what? Here's the deal. Anybody that watched that fight, that actually took time out of their lives to watch that so-called fight, they need to be compensated.
Because if you watch that fight back, if that was a quote-unquote real fight, Tyson would have knocked that motherfucker. He left himself exposed to Tyson's.
Yeah.
But Tyson just didn't hit him. So I don't know what the hell that fight was.
He got paid and went on about his business.
Yeah.
It's just.
So how much you guys want to bet when the Vikings win Sunday, when they do the power rankings and all that type of stuff? I know power rankings. I know Tony thinks power rankings are BS. The way I look at power rankings is that's how they think, how teams are. The Steelers will still be in front of the Vikings. I guarantee it.
I don't see why. How the hell you going?
Baltimore lost to the Browns, and they got 4 losses. Baltimore has 4 losses. They have 2 bad losses, and they're still in front of Minnesota.
I know. A lot of people say it's because of Sam Darnold. It's the national media.
Well, Sam Darnold's played better than Caleb Williams this year.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's played better than a lot of starting quarterbacks.
Yeah.
He really has.
Plus, I think it's a Minnesota thing, too.
Well,
they're probably still feeling burned from.
Well, they got the Packers ahead of us, though.
Yeah.
Coward always has. Coward, I swear, is the biggest Packer dick rider I know out there. He just is.
He has the Dolphins as the number 10 team in his power rankings.
Whatever. Yeah, no shit, Sarah. God. Move up to 28 maybe for lucky. What a joke. That's why I don't believe that shit. Somebody sent me I'll have to send it to you, how they do the grading in Pro Football Focus. I haven't read it yet, but I'll probably read it and still say it's complete bullshit.
Yeah, I heard because I watched Vikings First and Goal with Tyler Fonis and Dave and all that. Tyler says that the people who started PFF no longer are at PFF. So the guys that would use their real eyes to downgrade the PFF score or upgrade the PFF score, all those guys are gone. PFF is just straight numbers now. That's why the ratings are so bad. So the people who would say, he ran it out, was he supposed to? But see, the problem with my biggest issue with PFF is you don't know what the coach told that player to do. And until they get that information, their grades are meaningless.
You don't know what his responsibility. Just think, you know what? If they had PFF back in the day, my God. They would have made a lot of Hall of Famers look inadequate.
Oh, yeah.
They would have. It's
Like Michael Irvin wouldn't look good.
Irvin wouldn't have looked good. Hell, they would have had. I mean, they wouldn't have had John Randall look good. They wouldn't have had Randall McDaniel look good. Gary Zimmerman. They sure as hell wouldn't have had Tarkenton look good.
No.
You know, and for that case, they wouldn't have had anybody on that defense, especially the older guys, look good. They'd even find fault with Alan Page. He was the best at the position, him and Joe Green. Just think if they had it with Joe Green was there. There were games where Joe Green didn't show up.
Yeah.
You know, I don't take PFF seriously.
People still do, though.
There are people that don't know the sport that are very analytical that take it seriously.
Good night, Mama.
Good night, Mom. When you know the sport and you've coached it and played it and stuff, you can spot the frauds. But there's a lot of people that don't. I mean, there's a lot of people that are all into the numbers.
Wild won again. Jeez.
Wild won?
Again.
Wolves lost.
Well, I don't care about the Wolves.
Hey, if you're going to be a Minnesota fan, cheer for them all, damn it.
I can't, man. I'm loyal.
How can the Vikings be 11? What the hell? 11? Who the hell would be ahead of them? Defensively, they're 11th? Jeez.
The Vikings are frauds again, just so you know.
Oh, yeah, that's the consensus at ESPN, at Fox Sports. The Vikings are fraudulent.
It's funny because they say who's the best contender to the Lions in the NFC, and of course the Eagles come up, which I okay, but then they talk about the Packers. But didn't the Lions like smoke the Packers?
Yeah,
and the Vikings were
in Green Bay.
Right,
he smoked them in Green Bay.
The Vikings were toe to toe with the Lions.
Yep,
and the Vikings lost that game. More than think about it. If the Vikings get a first down, they're not even talking about the Lions, being the best team in the NFL right now. They
lost it because of bad play calling by KLC and a soft defense by Flores.
Yeah.
So you know what? It's nothing new. National media has always shit on the Vikings. They've done it for years. They were going to Super Bowl after Super Bowl, and they were still just shitting on them. It just, I don't listen to national media at all. Especially don't listen to ESPN, and I don't listen to Fox. I don't listen to Fox for anything. So
I just find it funny how the Lions' history is far worse than the Vikings' history. But all of a sudden, the Lions, quote unquote, have turned the corner.
Because the national media loves a Cinderella story. They did it with the Saints.
Except for when Minnesota's a Cinderella.
Yes, they did it with the Saints. They did it with the Lions. They've done it with who else? Philadelphia. They did it with the Rams.
Yeah.
The
Chiefs' first run.
It's just never. Minnesota's that team that's always good enough and find a way to lose at the end. They're like a hard luck team. But for my God, the Lions have sucked for 60 goddamn years.
I don't want the Lions winning the Super Bowl. I'm sorry.
They might not make it out of the first round.
We as Viking fans will never hear the end of that.
Fuck the Lions. I'm sick of their fans. I had no problem with the team, but now
the only team in the division not to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, guess what? Everybody's been to the Super Bowl except you fuckers.
But I don't know. The Lions have flaws. The Lions aren't a perfect team, so
no, and they might lose to the Colts this weekend.
I don't know.
I can see them looking past the Colts. I really can.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, but we've got to take care on our end and beat the Bears.
I think that if the Vikings lose, it'd be the Vikings not showing up. That offensive line is horrible.
And we've seen that. Yeah, Minnesota is a top 15 market for TV. It is top 15. but the fact that it's basically flyover country between to Chicago.
Well, the Packers aren't even top 50 TV market.
No, Packers aren't even top 50. Matter of fact, their Green Bay is like very small. Yeah, Azzaloni broke his arm. So he's done. That was like one of the guys. He was to their defense what, kind of like Van Ginkel is to ours.
Well, people are saying that and this person kind of made a legitimate argument about the Vikings. He said the reason why he doesn't think the Vikings are a threat to the Lions is because their offense is struggling right now. And the offensive line is not as good as it was with Darrisaw being out.
That's true.
But the other host on the show said, yes, but the Lions don't have a pass rush. So them losing Darrisaw is not really going to hurt them against the Lions.
No.
So they're like, well, the Lions have won 4 straight against Minnesota, and the other guy's like, yeah, but when was the last time they blew the Vikings out? They don't blow even with Nick Mullins as their quarterback last year. The Lions didn't blow the Vikings out.
It still came down to the last drive.
Yeah,
it still came down to the last drive. So I don't know. That wasn't Nick Wright, was it?
No, I can't. It was like a YouTube show.
Oh,
Basically what their stick is I can't remember, and I wish I could remember the name of it. It's a good show. It's a good concept. It's like no matter what team they talk about, one guy talks about, like when they talk about like 2 different teams, they do point counterpoint, whether they believe it or not. They make arguments.
So they got somebody on there just to be an ass.
So, well, basically, let's say they talk about Green Bay, right? And they'll talk about Green Bay, and then one guy will be like, well, yeah, the Packers, they're going to have another quarterback. That's another Hall of Fame quarterback with Jordan Love, and their defense is this. And the other guy will be like, Jordan Love had one good streak of 5 games. Their defense underperforms every year. They're really not that good. Their receivers can't catch anything. And the other guy,
their whole thing is basically an orchestrated point counterpoint.
Yeah.
Scripted point counterpoint.
Even if they don't believe it, though, they sound convincing.
Yeah, it's called acting.
And, but it's a good show because you talk pretty much like, and then when they talked about the Lions, they talked about who's a threat to the Lions in the NFC. One guy was the Lions. The other guy was other teams in the NFC.
The biggest threat to the Lions is the Lions themselves.
Yeah. Well, it's not ESPN because ESPN doesn't think the Vikings are a threat.
Okay, when you start listening to networks with Dan Orlovsky in it, and they're taking his word over as an expert, yeah, you're in trouble. It's Orlovsky.
I watch ESPN for the live sports pretty much.
I don't watch ESPN.
So I have to because my SEC has this quote unquote its own network, but it's run by ESPN.
It's run by ESPN. So and that's what sucks.
So
it's your network, but you're run by ESPN.
Right. So I mean, I watch ESPN for live sports. That's pretty much it. I don't watch it for all those damn goofy shows that they have on there. And then Nick Wright, I watch his quarterback tiers, and I watch his where he has the team.
Here's the thing: I don't even watch Stephen A. anymore because he used to rip on the Cowboys for losing, but now he's so sympathetic to him. He just he feels bad for him, which I'll never get that. I'm like, fuck the Cowboys. Everything they got coming for them.
I don't think the Packers are a very good football team.
They're not. Packers are not a good team.
It took a field goal for them to beat the Bears. The Bears are not a very good football team.
And here's the thing: that field goal, there should have been a flag because the dude got leverage on the center.
Yeah.
And they got away with it.
Yeah.
So Packers are still getting them bogus ass calls.
Right. And someone said there was actually, you know what? It was Mina Kuntz from ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
She said that, and they talked about the Bears and the Vikings, and they It was like an 8-minute segment talking about the game, and I would say 30 seconds was the Vikings, and the rest of it was how the Bears could win.
Right.
At the end, they go, having said that, we both think the Vikings are the vote. He's like, I'm too much of a coward to pick the Bears, and Mina's like, if you really look at the Vikings roster compared to a couple years ago, she's like, it's a pretty solid roster. She's like, there really is not that many holes on that roster. Now, do other teams have better talent over some of those positions? Yes, but the Vikings are solid at every position. You really can't say there's a glaring weakness on this team. And she's like, and I'm talking even including Sam Darnold. So
she ain't seen our offensive line play.
So, but the Vikings offensive line though is like middle of the road ranking wise.
That's what they're saying.
I know that's because it's our tackles. It's mostly because of the tackles.
It's because of the tackles, yeah.
Yeah, but overall. Yeah.
Also, you know what? Robinson hasn't played bad at all.
No, the only bad game he had was against Jacksonville, and that's because they know him, because he was literally there like a week and a half before the game to play.
That's the only game that then he still played pretty decent, but
he's no Darrisaw. Everybody knows he's no Darrisaw. But if he can keep Darnold upright, that's And if you're a quarterback, you'd much have a pressure come from the sides than up the middle.
And I'm sorry. And last week, I mean, even in the Tennessee game, Darnold escaped a lot of pressure, which I was shocked with.
Yeah.
He got out of the pocket and was
Jeffrey Simmons dominated Simmons dominated the interior offensive line.
Yeah, so did Tart.
So
yeah. I mean it just and Reisner didn't help. He's not a run blocker. He can't run block.
He's better than Ingram though.
I'm better than Ingram. What are you talking about? You're better than Ingram.
No, not an offensive line for me. Sorry.
I'm better. At least I'd give it to a college.
I tried offensive line. The coach is like,
I wasn't
all
good.
Right, well, we tried that.
Good either.
My coach is like, all right, we tried that. Let's go back to defense. I'm like, thank you.
I tried that. I was not. I tried offense.
I would rather attack. I would rather attack than defend. Thank you.
Yeah. But see, this is where I go back to. This is where I get on the front office and I get on the Viking coaching staff.
Darnold is hurt though, by the way.
Yeah, he's got
a foot
injury or something. The hand is still bugging him. He's beat up. That's why the Vikings, this is late in the year, they've got to get that running game going.
Well, people are killing the running game. They ran the wall. I wouldn't say Jacksonville was a bad rushing game. They just stopped running it, and that's on KOC. Tennessee has the number one run defense in the NFL.
You should be able to run on the Bears.
And it's because of those two. It's because of those. The Titans allow 2.8 yards per carry. So I don't think it was a bad run performance. I think it was what you get against the Titans. The Bears allow 4.9 yards a carry.
So hopefully we can run it.
So
and also, if you're going to run the ball, do not keep feeding it to Aaron Jones. He's hurt. You can tell.
Well, I would do I would do like maybe do the first couple of drives, have Aaron Jones, and then sub in. Because I think Cam Akers is perfect for backup to get 3 or 4, 5, 6, maybe 5 series a game.
Play all 3. Play all 3. You got to
something. Obviously, Ty did something. He doesn't get any playing time, and then he had that penalty on special teams.
Which you know what? I ain't even mad at him about that penalty.
So
I'm not even mad at him about that.
So I mean, for once, the Vikings actually got the benefit of calls.
Well, Tennessee's just idiots. I mean, their coach runs on the field. He's bitching and moaning. Like, dude, you're gonna get your team screwed. I mean, Jordan Addison took a couple of good shots last week.
Yeah, but he got his touchdown.
He did get his touchdown. He would have had 2.
Naylor should have had a touchdown, but he dropped another one.
Naylor should have had a touchdown too. We would have had 37 points if they get those 2 touchdowns. So I mean,
that's twice, because didn't Naylor drop one against the Rams as well?
Yeah, Naylor is. I would not even have Naylor out there. I'd have Sherfield or Powell.
So,
but that again, when you're a coach's favorite, they're going to shove you down our throats. And McCardell loves Naylor, so
the Vikings need a true number 3.
Yeah, they don't have it.
So I know this week's show was a day later than it should have been, but tomorrow night's show, we are still doing the Friday Free for All.
Mm-hmm.
So we will get that set up. Do you want to do your prediction now, or do you want to do it? Do you want to do it Friday, or?
I'll do it now. I think it's going to be another close game. I got the Vikings winning 24-14.
Well, that's not as close as some people had it. Some people the Vikings are favored by 3.5. Some people have the Bears covering.
Florio picked the Bears.
Yes, well, he's a Vikings hater. He says he's a Vikings fan.
I think his kid is more of a Viking fan.
He's more negative. Well, he said that once he stopped being a full-time lawyer and started doing like his pro football focus, pro football talk, he kind of stopped being he's still a Vikings fan.
He's also salty too because he went on PA's show.
Yeah.
And he told the truth about Kirk Cousins. And they haven't had him on there since, I don't think.
Yeah, but he's negative Nancy when it comes to the Vikings.
He's negative now. He used to be pretty upbeat.
But I don't know, maybe he's picking the Bears to win because the Vikings lose, he doesn't get disappointed.
Oh, you mean like I do?
But I don't think that with how bad the offensive line is for the Bears, the Bears ran him a lot. No.
They're also going to have their starting.
The Bears ran him a lot last week, but you can't do that against the Vikings defense. So I think the Vikings have one of those 6-7 sack games. I don't think the Bears. He has not thrown a touchdown pass in 4 games. They only scored 1 rushing touchdown. They've only scored 1 touchdown in the last 3 games. I think it's more of the same for the Bears. I don't think the Bears get that many points. I'm thinking 24-6, something like that.
Only reason I'm giving 14 is because we got a referee crew this week that the Vikings are 0-2 with, and they call a lot of flags on the Vikings. This referee crew.
Yeah. Well, the reason I've been in the show early is because our dogs have to go out. So
we'll be back on tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll be back on tomorrow, guys. Sarah, your invite will be on X. I'll send that to you before the show starts. Yeah, so we'll be back on tomorrow night. So we'll talk final thoughts tomorrow night about the game. So, like I said, I think it's going to be like 24-6, something like that.
I got 24-14, which I'll probably end up changing it tomorrow night. But right now, 24-14.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us, and we will see you guys tomorrow night.
Vikings, let's win this game. Score Vikings on a winning day. Go get that first down, then get a touchdown. Rock 'em, sock 'em, fight, 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 fight. Go Vikings.